In our last session on the Ramadan lecture series, we had given you the introduction, and this is still Shaban. This is towards the end of Shaban, and we had given you some idea about the series itself. So in this session, we'll repeat some of the points and some of the basically we'll share some information about the series once again for your benefit, but thereafter we are not going to repeat this info again and again in each of our sessions, so that's not required. So the series itself, we have already started the series in Shaban, and we intend to carry it across Ramadan and even after Ramadan for a post Ramadan session. So that's about the series. And in each session, we intend to discuss about one specific aspect, one specific issue about Ramadan, about fasting, about the month of Ramadan, etc. So in our last session, we had also informed you in our last session that some of the sessions will be in a lecture mode or a talk mode, and other sessions will be such as this one, a presentation mode, where we will present to you some data which will actually help us to uh, understand the concepts better. Rather than presenting it in the form of a lecture session, we will present it in the form of a presentation. So in this session, we want to clarify some of the things that we have already discussed about in session one. And one more thing before we actually get started with this second session is that we are treating this series as a whole. So we'll treat the introduction and the conclusion as formal sessions. The rest of it will be informal or semi-formal at best. So let's get started. We had discussed about, if you remember, the solar calendar system, the lunar calendar system, and also about the Islamic calendar system, which is essentially a lunar calendar system. So we have given you some background to that. If you forget, or if you're watching this one directly, I would request you to go back and watch that before you have a look at this session. So we had discussed about how in a solar calendar system the day is calculated, how a month is calculated, and we had given you an idea about the lunar calendar system as well, the Islamic calendar system, which is essentially a lunar calendar system, how in an Islamic calendar system the day is calculated and the month is calculated. We had given you this idea. So here we intend to present it with some data. So let's get started. We are taking the example, the data set for Kolkata, which is a city in India. This is the city where I stay in, I live in, and we are considering the data for June 2015. June 2015. Why June 2015? Because Ramadan this year, 2015, will begin in June. And I don't want to repeat those things which I have already stated. Ramadan 2015 makes no sense. Ramadan 1436. So some of the things I'll be speaking in a manner in which we are used to hearing about it. So things that I have already clarified, it's that way, unless I make a mistake and I have to uh, give you the correct version. Otherwise, that is to be treated as that. So this is June 2015, and we are dealing with the data set for Kolkata. We'll look at specifically the sunrise and the sunset timing and the moonrise and the moonset timing. So this is important for us. The sunrise and the sunset timings and the moonrise and the moonset timings. I mean, these two we'll have to look at in conjunction. Otherwise, again, it will not be of much benefit to us. So let's get started. So as you can see, this is the data for Kolkata, June 2015. So when will Ramadan begin, right? So it's a good question. So let's start with, say, June 15. Let's start with June 15. When is the sunset time? We have already discussed the concepts. We don't want to repeat the concepts once again. For the concepts, you can always go back to session 1. See, today is June 14. This is what is already highlighted. Let's start from June 15. You can see the sunset time is 6:22 p.m. 18:22. Let's look at the moon timings. Okay, so this is the time, the data for the moon rise and the moon set. So this is, today is June 14 and tomorrow is June 15. So we're looking at this data. So the moon set timing is 17:09, that is 5:09 p.m. So the moon, remember this, you need to remember this. June 15, sunset time is 6:22 and moon set time is 5:09. So the moon has already set before the sunset. So it's not possible to view the moon. Let's go back to, let's move ahead actually with June 16. So June 16, as I said, the sunset timings will be close, but the moon set times will vary a lot. June 16, the next day, the sunset time is 6:23 p.m., 18:23. Let's look at the moon set time. June 16, it's 6:06. Sunset is 6:23, moon set is 6:06. So the moon has already set before the sunset. Again, it is not possible for us to see the moon. It's below the horizon. It's not above the horizon. By the time the sunset is taking place, the moon has already set prior to that. So June 16 is the new moon. You can see the symbol, new moon. Now let us look at June 17, the data for June 17. Now when you come to June 17, the sunset time is 6:23. Now let us look at the moon set time. The moon set time for June 17 is now 6:59. Do you see the difference in the moon set time? How it varies by a lot as compared to the sunset times, which are very close to each other, maximum of 1 minute difference. So again, June 17, 6:23 and June 17, 6:59. So June 17, we're interested in June 17 now. June 17 at 6:23 p.m. is the sunset time. The moon is still above the horizon. 6:23 to 6:59. So about how much? So 7 plus 29. So that's about 36 minutes. For 36 minutes, the moon is above the horizon after the sunset, and after 36 minutes, the moon will set. So June 17 is basically the first day when it is theoretically possible. Listen to it carefully. June 17 is the first day when it is theoretically possible for us to view the moon. Now, not necessarily we'll be able to view it if it's theoretically possible, because it's very close to the horizon. The moon is still very close to the horizon, and 36 minutes is not a very long time. And especially in cities with the high rises, it's more difficult, and with the pollution levels and with clouds, sometimes it can be tricky. Now, let's move ahead with June 18. After that, we need not analyze any further. June 18, the sunset time is still the same at 6:23 p.m. and the moon set time is now June 18, 1949. That is 7:49. So it's more than an hour on the next day. Can you see the difference in the timings from 14, 15, 16, 17, 18? How drastically it varies. So on June 18, the moon is above the horizon after the sunset for some, definitely more than one hour. 1 hour plus 26 minutes, 1 hour 26 minutes. So on the second day, the chances for the moon sighting increases so much more. This is a point which we want to keep in mind. So the second day, it's usually, if we have not seen it on the first day, then the second day is usually visible. And that's how the Ramadan, if it's to be determined through eye sighting, We'll discuss about the issues. The issues are still, it's still pending for discussion. We'll discuss about these issues, but let us understand these concepts very clearly before we actually go ahead with the discussions. And we'll also bring in the relevant portions of the Quran and the Hadith, more about the Hadith, because the Quran, there are just 3 verses which are generic in nature and it's applicable, and it does not basically probe into those issues where there are conflicts or differences of opinion. Some general commands and instructions and verses of guidance are mentioned specific to Ramadan, specifically in Surah Baqarah, chapter number 2, verses 183, 184, 185, 3 consecutive verses. So second day, the sun, after the sun has set, the moon is still above the horizon for more than 1 hour as compared to some few minutes, some 36 minutes the previous day. It's more than 1 hour today, I mean on June 18, and so the chances for the visibility is so much more increased. And one more thing is that the lunar month is either of 29 days or of 30 days. Either 29 days or 30 days. It can never be more than 30 days, can never be 31 days or more. It can never be less than 29 days, can never be 28 days or less. So that's an impossibility. Now, even before we go into those discussions about should there be moon sighting, I mean issues such as in which there is a difference of opinion, such as moon sighting versus calculation, and all those issues which we had brought forth, which we have not yet discussed, which we have brought forth to the table for us to be aware that these differences exist, and we are probing on issues how, when, why these points have come forward as issues over which difference of opinion exists. We're just discussing up at that level now. We've not even gone into the core issues, but this itself is so important. Now, 29 days or 30 days. So when we don't see the new moon after 29 days, then the next day, whether we see the new moon, I mean, if we are to, let's for a moment assume that it has to be based on moon sighting. Ramadan is to be determined on moon sighting. I'm not stating now whether it should be on moon sighting or calculation, not yet. We'll discuss about those issues. But as of now, let's assume that it has to be based on moon sighting. It has to be based on moon sighting. If that is the case, then once on the first day we don't see the moon, the next day, whether we see the moon or not, it completes 30-day cycle. And once that happens, the month is completed and the new month begins. Now, before we bring this session to a close, there is one very important point that I want to raise before we move ahead with the other topics. And even this topic, but this data will no more be required. We'll be dealing with some other data at that time, or we'll have a lecture session at that point of time. So now let's focus on this. Now, please tell me one thing, that on June 16, for this year, in Kolkata I'm talking, these timings are for Kolkata, but the analysis is as valid for Kolkata as it is for any other place. The analysis itself will be equally valid. We're focusing on a data so that it's easier to understand from a specific reference frame. On June 16, please tell me, please hear this very carefully and please try to understand and please answer me. I mean, you'll not be able to answer me. This is a pre-recorded session. I mean, by the time you're going to watch it, it's a pre-recorded session. But think about it. June 16, sunset time 6:23 p.m. and moonset time is 6:06 p.m. That means the moon has already set before the sunset takes place. So once the time for the sunset comes, when the sun now finally sets, the moon has already set prior to that. It is below the horizon. So on June 16, it is a theoretical impossibility for moon sighting to take place. Am I clear? It is not possible to sight the moon on June 16. It's absolutely impossible. Okay, before we explain this, let's go back to this idea. June 16 is actually the new moon. It's not visible. June 17 is the crescent moon, when It's when it's first theoretically possible to sight the new moon. Whether you sight it or not, that's a different issue altogether. But it's the first day when it's theoretically possible to sight the new moon. June 17 is that first day, and June 18 is the second day. So June 16, it's not possible at all. It's impossible that you can sight the new moon. Now, uh, let me just give you a hint as to, I would not want to give too much at this point of time, because it will have some presuppositions about this entire series, and then you may decide not to watch it. I mean, that's your right, that's your choice. You can only decide, I mean, you can only decide if something is presented is correct or not after you have watched it and thought about it, thought over it. If you decide not to watch, it's your choice, it's your freedom. But then you'll never come to know whether what has been presented makes sense or not, whether what has been presented is correct or not. You lose that opportunity. So if someone were to say that I have sighted the moon on June 16, a day in which it is theoretically impossible for moon sighting to take place, do you accept that witness? This is a question. June 16, the moon has already set at 6 p.m. The sunset takes place later, 6:23 p.m. What is it? I mean, yeah, it's 6:23 p.m. Uh, so it's about 17 minutes after the moon set has taken place. So the moon is not above the horizon, it's below the horizon. So once it has already set before the sunset, is it possible to sight the moon? No, absolutely not. So anyone who says that I have sighted the new moon, what do you do with that witness? Oh, do you accept that witness because a Muslim's witness is supposed to be accepted? No, you don't, because it's a lie. Now, why did I bring this issue at all in the first place? I mean, do I like to waste my time and your time? No, not at all. This has happened. Believe me, this has happened. And this has not happened once. This has happened for a number of years in Saudi Arabia, in Saudi, that a false witness, I mean, a day in which it is theoretically impossible to sight the new moon, the hilal, the crescent, sorry, the crescent moon, the hilal, people have given witnesses and that has been accepted. It's remarkable. It's happened for a number of years in the 1990s, I guess. It happened for a number of years. And then now the Saudi obviously has a committee which includes scholars, which includes astronomers, which includes scientists, which they are just trying to look at the moon sighting through naked eye sighting, through aided eye sighting, aided in the sense through telescopes, etc. And they have a committee now which decides on the moon sighting issue. But for a number of years, false witnesses have been taken into account, and I'm not talking about June 17 cases where it's actually theoretically possible. So even if some people don't, it is still possible theoretically for some other people to actually sight the moon. It's possible theoretically at that level, at the theoretical level at least. But on June 16, it's theoretically impossible. So if someone were to give a witness that I have sighted the moon, we treat it as a false witness and we do not consider it for the marking the beginning of the lunar month. Not for any month, not for Ramadan. That is clear as well. Not for any month, not for Ramadan. So that's basically the point that I wanted to say. So there were issues previously pertaining to this issue. Were false witnesses. So I've already given you some hints at that theoretical level that should there be only, let's assess the issue once again as a whole, not even at the core level. We'll have this discussions later on at a very basic level, at a very elementary level. Moon sighting versus calculations. I say it's fine, absolutely fine to go with the moon sighting, but then theoretical calculations at least should be taken into account to eliminate any case of false witness. I hope that makes a lot of sense and you would agree with me, I hope. I mean, to the extent that people in the past, authorities in the past, not people, Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia in the past has said that the astronomers, they're trying to create confusion and they're false people. I mean, theoretically impossible. So the astronomers argued the witnesses are not to be accepted, and the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia, Sheikh Abdulaziz Al Sheikh, I don't consider him to be a Sheikh, but let's not bring in those controversial issues in this session, in this series at least. He has said that these people are trying to create confusion. They're trying to create fitna. What sort of fitna are you talking about? On a day it's not possible. How can you take a, in fact, those who are giving the false witnesses, they are the causes of the fitna, and that has to be eliminated. So at this level, the importance of scientific calculations should play a role. That's what the logical understanding is. I think that's enough for highlighting this issue. We'll discuss about some more issues in a separate session. In fact, we'll continue with these sessions right through and across Ramadan, but at least a few sessions will have to be done before the marking the beginning of the month of Ramadan, and we'll try to do that inshallah. We'll try to complete that part at least before Ramadan. So that's it for this session.